After a venture to America's home for racing, the ABN Champ Car World Series is back in action, and tonight it's all about the left turns of the Homestead-Miami Speedway, welcoming the Champ Car Series back to Florida for the first time in Season 5. This is the Miami 300, hosted exclusively in Homestead, Florida, and the virtual track currently with over 20 drivers in the session, getting ready for an exciting night here. 125 laps for your main feature, just over 300 kilometers. Welcome back to ABN Esports. As we've gone through the first stages of this season, the championship fight getting even more intense, and we've seen our fair share of winners. And of course, same broadcasting team bring you all of the action. I'm David Kreutz alongside Olivia, Hayward, and Taylor Mills tonight, and we'll bring you all of the spectacle here in Miami as we're set to get going. Practice, less than 5 minutes left, and right now drivers are still taking times as we'll look to the track for the first time tonight. A familiar face from our last oval event is back with us, Hamilton Akabuzi, the fastest driver in the practice session. And of course, with what happened at Texas still fresh in the memory of every driver in this field, he's going to be one of the many major points of contention all night long. We already have a very close timing chart, most drivers separate by less than a half second. Returning faces, a championship battle which is still developing, and of course, first time we've gone to Homestead this year with these champ cars. A lot to discuss, and a lot of firsts at the same time with 3 minutes remaining in our practice session. Coming off for the back straightaway there, you see drivers still taking extra times, and as we get things going in the early running, as it stands, it's going to be Hamilton Akabuzi, Nicholas Pressey, and Eli Sasic first, second, and third quickest. Now, of course, getting going for the first time tonight, so drivers getting the extra reps in just before all is said and done. And the question I'd like to ask to, of course, both of you here in the broadcast booth is, back to the ovals here, it's hard to be this clear standout quickest driver, although we might have one in Hamilton Akabuzi. What's it going to take to separate yourself here at a track where there's a lot of racing room, but so many drivers around you that the pack clustering back up again is going to be tricky to make those important decisions that help your race out? How can you separate yourself at a circuit like Homestead?
Yeah, the way I see it, there's basically two options you have of how to put yourself in a really good position. One of them, very simply, is just get qualifying right, get your car out in front. If you can't do that, get strategy calls to get yourself there, and don't worry about the dirt. Yeah, if you're the lead car, it's everyone else's problem. So if you can get qualifying right now, a track where that aero wash is going to be a big factor, that does most of the work. Otherwise, you're going to have to hunt around, really use those adjustments as much as you can. I mean, we saw at Texas some people really push the limits and occasionally exceed those on the anti-roll bars and the weight jacker to try and get the car to rotate. But the real secret in that situation, you just got to find a clear line. You got to put your nose somewhere where you're not stuck in the weight of somebody else and just try and find some air to cut through. Get it down on your wing and get that downforce just to slingshot you through the corner.
I've made it no secret so far this season that I love ovals with low banking. We've been fortunate enough that we've been treated to Chicagoland and now Miami. Texas a little bit less so, but still there to an extent. It's going to be so much fun watching these drivers trying to find that clean air tonight. I'm always a big fan of ripping the top. I've mentioned that one before, so I already know that one of our drivers out there tonight is going to be ripping the top. I won't say who yet. Don't want to give any secrets away, but keep your eyes peeled even for seeing folk right up against that wall tonight. It's going to slow you down on the straights, but with that little bit less steering input, you're going to carry a lot of speed through the corner, and the fact that it goes a little bit downhill on exit, that touch more speed going down the back stretch and the home stretch is really going to help our drivers out tonight. But as Olivia said, it's going to be about what our drivers can do with the tools tonight. Anti-roll bars, weight jackers, how close can you push it to the edge without pushing it too far?
Yeah,
and the
other thing to remember about Homestead is we have the progressive banking in the turns here as of the, I believe, the 2003 reconfiguration. In the turns, you have between 18 and 20 degrees of banking. That top line, another couple of degrees, and that's going to really help you hold that line if you need to find some clear air and make some moves towards the front.
Practice session concluded. Hamilton Akabuzi, the quickest in the charts then and there. Now time to move on and find out what the drivers have in store for qualifying. Now, this qualifying session gives drivers 4 laps, so they got a bit more time than, of course, the traditional 2 on ovals. Here, we got an opportunity to warm up, build up the warmth of the tire, and get going. You see Mo Perry right now on the track. He's one of the many that's taken it at least off of pit road so far. And with 10 minutes in the session, drivers are going to have themselves a lot of time to prepare as the early going of the session already is in full swing. Now, when it comes to the weather and the track conditions tonight, it's all constant, so there will need no changes. There's no advantage of going out of the track later or going out earlier. It's your own track in essence. So with that being said, drivers are going to get on the way and decide to turn those laps early just to get it over with. Perry, one of which. You also see Eli Sasek, and he's been quick as of recent. However, in terms of practice, that time through 25.477, his fastest time, and he's now come around for his first full timed lap. The grid's being reorganized right now. Parker Alexander, Mo Perry, Miller have taken times as well, with Alex Miller now sitting on the provisional pole. He finds himself there just under 0.2 of a second ahead of James Wright. So early in the going, seeing some drivers climb higher. Expect laps by the 25.3 range, though, when all is said and done. Right now, we've only just cracked the 25.5s.
Sophie Connell coming through here. Currently running on lap 3. Currently has the fastest time. We'll see if they can improve here. And the Peltier Sharp slots in second. Sophie Connell doesn't improve that time by maybe setting up a lap 4. We'll have to see. The interesting thing about having a 4-lap qualifying run here is you can really try and optimize a couple of different laps. Bobby Blowers goes fastest, but if you want to get that high run through 1 and 2, or through 3 and 4 to set yourself up as a slingshot on the exit, you can do that twice. You can set a fast lap, then have a cooldown and go for another one. And I think the strategy of when you try and go fast is a very crucial thing here, not just sort of what line you take, but how you set up for it.
The interest of having a really short racetrack to qualify around here rearing its head already, though. So many of our drivers setting times within a few thousandths of each other. As Bruce Silver went to the top with a 25.4 on their previous lap. A lot of these drivers looking like they're setting up for laps 2 and 4. So keep your eyes peeled for the really fast times coming in right about now.
And the best of the session coming through. Bruce Silva now going to take us to the 25.4s with a 482. Bobby Blowers going to be second, and Mark Parkhurst is now going to be in third. So we're seeing some drivers climb higher and higher. Look out. It looks like a few drivers are still on pit road. You see Hamilton Akabuzi not with the time. Emily Howe just getting on the way in the number 83. So with Emily on the move, it looks like also Edson Santos going to be on pit road. Christina Ryan going to be not on the track at all. And Zach McBride going for his first this time by. So a few drivers have still not taken the time just yet, and it looks like we're seeing a few drivers get on the way for the very first time. Some still on pit road, and as such, we get going once again. The 47 machine going to be right there. He slots up into 20th, and there's 21 drivers with the time going back to Brandon Cruz. Every driver in the field separated by only 0.4 of a second here, so the differences are very, very minute, especially in the middle of the pack where you see there's a stretch from 25.5 to 25.59. That goes from 6th to 17th. So it's very small differences. And Zach McBride jumps up to 5th, as a matter of fact. Very good start for him there, as it looks like Emily Howe going to put it on to 23rd as it stands. Looking for a bit more this time by. Of course, 4 laps in every session. Emily onto her second.
Just a small update about some of the drivers that we haven't been watching so far this qualifying session. The stress of obviously only getting 4 laps to get this done. Mo Perry's had a crash coming out of turn 4. We won't be seeing it anymore from them during this qualifying session. Sorry, Liv.
I was just not to jump in. I had eyes on Hamilton Akabuzi, who we saw at Texas took a kind of a slow roll out of pit lane, really tried to worked those tyres slowly into optimal temps. Set off, got onto lap 1, but it appears might have dropped from the session now. So we'll have a lot of catching up to do to try and set that car back up for another attempt, as Edson Santos is now setting off, looking like with a very similar strategy, sort of slowly rolling out of pit lane, not quite at 100% yet, just trying to get the tyres and the engine to the perfect temperature to roll. HTBC unfortunately has been dropped from the session. We'll hope he can reconnect and give us a qualifying lap before this session ends. Still almost 5 minutes left. As Emily Howe puts that car up in 3rd place at the end of the session. Couldn't improve on lap 4, but still currently a second row start for Emily. There's only 3 cars left to set times.
We're looking at one of which right now in Christina Ryan. First lap for Ryan, going to put her 23rd on the board with a 25.992. Edson Santos and Hamilton Akabuzi, 2 drivers of note from Texas, are still sitting without a time yet. So keep an eye on both of them. That's a storyline in itself as Christina Ryan rounds the final corner and comes through for a second lap. Ryan's going to jump up to 6th there. That's going to be a tie for 6th and only 2 thousandths behind the 3rd place qualifying effort. And Ryan making moves fast here. Take a look on board and you'll see what's going on inside of the cockpit. A little bit of that telemetry. 6th gear right up top. Shifts down to 5th. I think it's going to be Christina Ryan setting up for one final lap here, giving it all she's got as she comes down the front stretch. Here we go. It's a hot lap in hot pursuit for the number 80 machine. Drops down low, takes it through 6th gear, and you can see full intention of making this the best lap possible.
Yeah, smart decision from Christina there to leave her run so late in the session. Obviously, if you go out early, you get the advantage of getting your 4 laps in and you're done, as Christina just hugging that inside line there, letting the car drift out wide. But if you go out as late as she has, she knows what she's going to do. Comes across the line. I can't see what time she set. There it is, 25.588. No improvement for Christina Ryan that time by, but again, she knew what she had to do. She did the best she could. She's still sitting up there in P6, and she knows how to work the dirty air at tracks like this. She's got plenty of experience here in Cup car machinery, so those skills do translate over to Champ car. Obviously, these cars are going to get affected a little bit more by the aero wash. They are doing a good chunk speed difference. Saw speeds of up to 340 kilometers an hour coming into turn 3 in that session.
That's 210 for any Americans.
210 miles an hour. Sorry, I'm completely European built.
Both numbers are okay. As this when we have a lot of American viewers who need help. 2.5 minutes left. Unfortunately, Hamilton's still the last car to not set a time and currently out of the session. So, unfortunate thing about virtual racing, you sometimes have these mechanical failures of your own equipment, be it your sort of your steering, your monitors, your internet, and could be forced to start the back of the grid and make a charge through the field. But wouldn't that be something to watch from the odds-on favourite from Texas?
You know, we talk about strategy so much in these races because it's so important. You wouldn't think it'd come out in qualifying, but just looking down the standings at the moment, and I can see all the laps that people have done on different sets of tyres. Nick Pressey did 2 runs of 2 laps. Just something interesting to note. Very unexpected. But here is our championship leader doing something completely different in qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, we did see a lot of cars go fastest on lap 2, try and set up again in lap 3 to attack lap 4, and just, I think by that point the tyres are just a bit too hot. They can't quite have the grip that they need. And so it's an interesting strategy to try and split the run up like that. The question, of course, then becomes: do you have the run out of pit lane to get one of those laps done? Because you'd have to use up lap 3 to bring it back to the pit and restart.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys caught that on the broadcast. Lilac's here having a little bit of a moment on the exit of turn 2 there. Back end just not quite complying the way she wants it to on this run, and obviously not improving on that previous lap. Yeah,
there was interesting about we had a little bit of a technical issue at the start of this session that cut off the first 10 minutes under red flag. And as part of that, these cars are set up in race conditions right now for qualifying. There's just the one setup, and so Lilac being very smart here and taking the opportunity while you have a car that's loaded up with fuel to just get a bit of a race with it. see how it would control if she does end up in that clean air, whether she gets to the front of the pack, or maybe, you know, always looking for strategy, maybe goes for an undercut or an overcut, and just wants to see how she can wheel that thing if she's got clean track ahead of her. And as the session finally rolls to an end, she's got a few extra laps in there, as we do go into a warm-up for 10 more minutes in a pack for anyone to see what they can do just before the race.
With qualifying concluded, we know what our starting grid is set to look like. Only one driver not able to take a time, as we mentioned, in Hamilton Akabuzi. Everyone else able to get at least one lap in, most of which getting multiple. Here's a look at your starting grid for tonight's event. At the top of the board, going to be Bruce Silva over Bobby Blowers, the gap between both of which 4 1,000ths of a second. So a very tight front row. Then from there, you're going to see Emily Howe and Mark Parkhurst. They're tied on time. It goes down to the 4th decimal because those two are just that close in terms of speed. It's a 25.496 for both. Emily gets 3rd, Mark gets 4th. You're going to be 5th in Sophie Connell, and then 6th in Christina Ryan. A gap between the two of these drivers, only 1,000th of a second. And then from there, it's going to be Zach McBride, who finds himself 7th on the qualifying grid, only 1,000 ahead himself of Nicholas Pressey. It's going to be 9th, Lily Peltier-Sharp, and Emma Kruger, who rounds out the top 10 with a 25.506. Overall, your top 10 separated by just over 20 thousandths of a second.
There's a cluster of Gear Cats cars on the fringe of the top 10 that continues. Lilac Zero and P12 line up alongside Edson Santos, who's involved in that dramatic final lap incident at Texas 3 weeks ago. Eli Sasek and Brandon Cruz make up the 7th row of our grid tonight, with Kevin Young and Elias Flores making up row 8 again, with identical times being separated at the 4th decimal place. Parker Alexander, Alex Martin, Ruby Estes and Alex Miller round out your top 20, with the final 4 qualifying cars being Tucker Sawyer, Edson, Mo Perry, Carmen Sienna and James Wright. Hamilton Akabusi, unfortunately, not able to set a time and may not play a part in this session. We'll have to see if he's able to hop back in and make a charge through the field as this race starts.
As exciting as that would be, it's a damn shame for Hamilton to not be currently with us in the session right now. Their pace at Texas was absolutely world beating, and to have watched them, well, the prospect of watching them come through the grid tonight, it's right there. It's so close, but it's still got 7.5 minutes to get back into the session and join us for tonight's race here at Homestead-Miami, but it's not looking likely so far. What a shame.
And for a driver that had so much promise all throughout this race, of course, we expected big things after Texas for good reason. Maybe there's still an opportunity, but we're watching overall connections have not changed, and it looks like Hamilton's still not with us as it stands. Drivers are coming through for practice laps. There's 6 minutes and 50 seconds remaining on the board, and already discussions are in mind about what's up next year for the Champ Car World Series, and we'd figure we'd like to let the new viewers, of course, new or returning, about what's coming up for the rest of the year. Season 5 we are currently in. However, you gotta look forward to Season 6, which will be up next. So let's take a look at the schedule here. We're going to bring it up for all the viewers, and it's a big deal. We got tracks returning, historic venues for open wheel racing. In addition, you also have some new tracks coming in for the very first time. Big tracks, small tracks, and everything in between. And it all starts in July, Michigan.
This is our current calendar.
Oh, boy. Well, with that being said, let's figure this one out.
It's beautiful, don't get me wrong. Beautiful.
And there we go. There we go. There it is.
There we go.
Well, now we see everything. We see Michigan on down, and Michigan's where it all starts, middle of July. And you can see from there on out, a lot of new tracks. We have some international fairs, some double headers as well from week to week. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting schedules we've seen in all of the Champ Car World Series history.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the road courses. I mean, that's where sort of my racing started when I was watching it and when I hopped onto the sim myself. Of course, we return here next season on July 24th for a 49-lap run around the road course, which we ran back in Season 3 and is a really underrated track. Of all the Rovals, it's probably up there with Daytona and Charlotte in my mind. We also have races at Barber. We've got the Chicago Street Course, which is going to be a wild venue to run at. And then, of course, that double header at Motegi, running both of the twin rings. And finished off our road course schedule with Road America, a track very close to my heart, and one that I'm sure will put on a hell of a show.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, Olivia. Road course racing, of course, where I made my start back in December of 2017, and it wasn't until perhaps a year later it was a couple of years later when we got the Dallara IR18s that I managed to get into this sort of racing. A lot of tracks here that I absolutely love. I've had a lot of fun on the iRacing service at Barber Motorsport Park. It has one of the best flows of any road course that I've ever raced in my entire life, and it's still got that really classic feel to it as well. Like, the Champ Car machinery is gonna almost feel out of place at a circuit like that, with all of its concrete curbs and corner exits. Like, those corner cuts through, I think, 11 and 12 are going to be absolutely insane up the hill and over the crest. Pocono as well, it has a very, very special place in my heart. It's the track where I won my first ever oval race during an Indy fixed round, and is also where I took my one and only win in a different IndyCar series that a different Dallara IR18 series that a friend of mine ran a couple of years back for my own team. But yeah, this calendar is really going to test a lot of skills that our drivers have. Road courses, ovals, tight ovals, super speedways, everything's there that's really going to push everyone right to their limit, and we're really going to see who's the best.
Yeah, I mean, just those first two races. First of all, I think there's a 400-kilometer race at Michigan. It's going to be high speed. You're going to have to be consistent. Like, it's such a long slog there. You got to keep your car in one piece, make those big moves, but be sensible with them. And then immediately after that, going from a 2-mile oval to one that's under a mile at Iowa. It really has everything. Like, just in those first 3 weeks, you've got big oval, small oval, road course. You have to have everything to win on this sort of calendar, and I can't wait to see how our drivers do.
I can't believe I didn't even mention Michigan. That's another one of my favorite tracks. Low banking, progressive banking, multiple lines. There's just so much to this calendar. There really is.
You know, one thing about Michigan we have to mention, the ABN Triple Crown, a $300 prize. It's going to be on the line if any driver can win all of these 3 races. Michigan, the season opener, Pocono, and Fontana. So there's a big prize on the line if one driver can do the unthinkable and make the Triple Crown happen. Of course, it all starts at Michigan, so if you win there, you're eligible for $300 if you pull that same result twice over. But by no means is that easy. All 3 of those tracks are, I would say, the biggest tackling of skill and expertise in strategy, racecraft, and every other factor of Indy, or rather, open wheel racing, and we're going to iconic tracks all throughout here. Indianapolis, one of which throughout this season, at the season finale. We then go back to Michigan. I'll tell you this much, I think next season might be an even bigger test. 11 ovals, 5 road and street courses, and a lot of returning circuits until our finale in Kentucky. It's an exciting ride coming up very soon. You got to buckle up here on ABN. Season 6, just a few months away.
I really can't wait. Of course, you saw a bit of sneak of that on the graphic there. It was posted on social media earlier today. There'll be a little bit of a fresh name as we go into that season, but for now, you're watching Champ Car, and we're about to get underway at Miami. I cannot wait.
Speaking of getting underway at Miami, we've only got a minute left in the session to talk about our picks for tonight.
Well, mine was meant to be Hamilton. We talked about this before the show started, but my commentator's curse has reached a new level because, as I say that, connects to the race.
Nice. Reverse commentator's curse? Are you still going to pick
no,
Hamilton?
I already did the curse. Like, them just to qualify. That's enough of a curse. But I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to say, because at this point, it can't get much worse. I'm going to say last first. I think it might be possible.
I like it. David, do you mind if I pick second?
We'd love to hear it. Yep. Hamilton Nakabuzi, the first pick. At least yours has a qualifying spot, right?
Exactly. So I'm going to go for first round oval winner, Christina Ryan. In my opinion, Homestead and Chicagoland have enough similarities that I think the skill set that Christina Ryan put on show for us, there we go, that's where I was getting, at Chicagoland is going to transfer across those great strategy calls, the very much dealing with her machinery. Like she said herself, she does not change the tools while she's racing, but still gets the results that she does. I'm going to pick her because I've got faith that she can bring it home in the number 1 spot tonight. David, you've got seconds left.
Grid is on the way, so we'll get a look at the driver I think I have to go with when it comes to what we've seen so far this season. Looking all throughout, I feel we're going to be looking at a very strong performance for a driver we haven't seen too much up in front of so far. I'm going to be taking Bobby Blowers here. Second on the order, of course, up in front. It might be a bit of a more predictable move, but Blowers is a driver we haven't quite seen run at the podium level so far throughout the season, at least getting those finishes. I think this is a big opportunity here at Homestead. Track position is going to be major. There are, of course, more than 20 drivers here. Not as many as previous events, coming up at 25, but it's going to be an opportunity to show what it takes to differentiate yourself on strategy at a track where Homestead, of course, is progressive banking. Many different features in that regard. Strategy is going to be a big deal with 125 laps, extended to 300 kilometers. It's every driver for the long haul, and I feel like if Bobby Blowers has a chance to break through and show what he's got all throughout a race, this is the event. So with that being said, I'll take Blowers here, and Hamilton Akabuzi, just an update. There he is at the back of the field, making it into the session. We've got our 25 driver field. Everyone from front to back is settled in.
We'd love to see it. Because Bobby Blowers, nearly getting it done in Texas a few weeks ago. Crossed the line third, promoted second after the post-race penalty given. So one better than the next oval. I can see it happening.
I mean, I'd take that bet. If I was you, I'd take that bet. Of course, though, time management is going to be absolutely key here tonight. 18 to 20 degrees of banking sounds like a lot, but when you're doing 210 miles an hour, that banking's going to feel like absolutely nothing. We're going to get a lot of tyre scrub, front and rear. And of course, we do only have 5 spare sets of tyres for our drivers tonight. And they're meant to they're meant to make those get about 125 laps total. Fuel stints looking to be 35 to about 42 in clean air versus draft. So of course, fuel management always key in the Dallara IR18. So it's going to be seeing who can make the most of the dirty air to save that fuel and make the calls to come in at the right time, because of course you don't want to come in without any help to pull you along on pit exit, but conversely you don't want to be held up too much on pit entry. It's going to be a race of checks and balances, dirty air, tyre scrub and fuel management, and only the driver that can manage all 3 of those elements is going to come out on top tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we saw fuel strategy at Texas just 3 weeks ago. It played a huge factor in that middle stanza of the race, and only a caution ended up lining things back up for our drivers. So a repeat of that, maybe.
Bad news, Liv. Just before we get green here, your commentator's curse has struck again.
This is the worst day.
You're having a good time. Hamilton Akabuzi has dropped out of the session and did not starting this race, unfortunately, even from the back of the grid. Mechanical failures, we deal with them in sim and in real life, as we're about to take the green flag, David.
And that's a shame, of course, for a driver we knew was going to be so quick if all went to plan. But it looks like tonight the field in the hands of Bruce Silva as the iRacing pace car takes the hard left turn in. It's time to get things going in Miami. The party in Florida will start as the field takes the green flag for the first time tonight. Bruce Silva will lead them through with about a car length advantage over the next driver right behind. It's going to be a 1-2 start, and immediately jumping out is Emily Howe, taking it away and immediately moving into the runner-up position.
Christina Ryan already making moves as well, straight down to the inside of the P4 starter. Got herself back on the outside now in plenty clean air, just tucked up behind that other car on the high side. Really, really good start from her so far. Just dealt with that dirty air perfectly. Perfect jump off the start. Took it in, looking for P3 now. back to the outside, dropping a little bit of speed on entry up in those marbles, maybe a little bit of loss of control. So that's going to kill the momentum coming down the back straight. Plenty of space between her and the car behind. The leaders going side by side now. Not much between them at the moment. No dirty air from either of them to deal with though. As Emily Howe tucks back in behind Bruce Silver, looking for a run down towards turn 1. Left, right, back to the high side. Side by side on entry. But that shorter run on the inside, helping Bruce Silver out, although having to check up a little bit. Emily Howe's going to have plenty of momentum on exit. They're going to be side by side again on the run down to turn 3. And it continues, but just as that inside line comes back into play, the scrubbing off the speed on that low side, it really helps Emily Howe tuck back into the slipstream as the speed builds once again for another lap.
The battle for the lead already building up. Emily Howe going right up high, and it was that jump off of the restart, or rather the start from the restart zone, which did all the magic for Emily, as now it's going to be a 2x2 battle for the first of these laps. Been less than a tenth of a second at the line each time so far, and Emily keeping it very close. It's that jump that made the difference. Bobby Blowers remains in third right now. Christina Ryan then in fourth. You have to look back to the Hornet's Nest with a lot of 2x2 battles further back. You'll see Eli Sasek right now with Emma Kruger, as it's still Emily Howe chasing our leader, Bruce Silva. 2x2 is also going to be seen with Lilac Zier here, Mark Parkhurst in the mix, not to mention further back, Parker Alexander. And even though the leaders got away largely single file, it always comes back to the middle of this field where they're at the closest when it comes to distance, and there's not a lot of room to make do with. Dirty air going to come into effect, and the field spreading out so far, with the exception of Hamilton Akabuzi, who just returned to the session. The field is spread now by 5 seconds, with Bruce Silva, the driver, in command.
Yeah, you're really seeing these two lanes form through the corners as these drivers try and make moves, but every time you look at you see the cars behind them a little bit staggered. Even if they can't get their full front wing exposed to some clean air out the back of the car ahead, they're trying to get at least something, just catch a little bit extra downforce from the non-turbulent air, and just hunting for whatever they can to get that little bit of grip to let them carry speed through the corner. But it's a difficult balance, because if you guess what line the car ahead is going to take and then they don't, they adjust from it, suddenly you are taking the complete wrong line into the corner and you have to adjust for that on the fly. And it's a real challenge, and we're going to see these drivers fighting throughout the entire race. So keep an eye out for those staggered lines coming through the corners.
There's not much you can do once you do get in the dirty air of a car in front. Even if you choose a line that they've chosen and you've already committed hard, even if you get on the brakes, that's going to unsettle the car and maybe understeer you out into the wall. Because you've got to think, as that car's slowing down, that downforce is peeling off, and that invisible energy that's keeping you stuck to the road mid-corner is going to fade away really quickly. And then you've got a whole different problem on your hands.
Biggest gainers right now, Eli Sasek up from 13th to 7th. Edson Santos from 11th to 6th. Both those cars making a charge through towards the front of the field. Now lining up Nicholas Pressey and Bobby Blowers, their next two targets before getting towards the top 3.
Pressey making big moves right now, up from 8th and just got by Bobby Blowers. And as you mentioned, the number 94 with a lot on the line tonight. We mentioned Austin Farr, who came in with a back-to-back win streak, not in the session. And Pressey comes in second in the point standings. It's a great deal of points that could be gained. And you're right about that. Leading now, of course, as we mentioned. So with that being said, it's a chance to extend that points advantage. And since there's none of the main competitors in regards to Austin Farr, now up in the fight for the podium, it's a big deal for Pressey.
Yeah, Pressey gained 2 points on Christina Ryan last time out. The gap now 28. But as you see, Christina Ryan's up in 3rd. Pressey falling down to 5th as Edson Santos starts looking to move up towards those podium places. They're going side by side through 3 and 4. And it's early in the season, I know, but those margins could prove critical by the end of the race.
Aggression has been the order of the day so far. Emily Howe and Christina Ryan both making up early places. Edson Santos, one of our biggest moves as well, up 6 so far. Nicholas Pressey, though, starting to struggle a little bit. Only a couple of seconds, not even a couple of seconds off the car in front. Feeling the effects of that dirty air on the high side. Edson Santos very much making use of the clean air in front of him right now. But that low line, just not enough momentum and energy in it right now to try and make that move as he tucks back in behind Nick Pressey. To maybe have another go in a couple of laps' time.
Quick update on James Wright. Was running at the back of the field, caught the apron in turn 2, launched straight up into the outside wall on the exit, managed to bring it back into pit lane without bringing out a caution. This is a spin out of 2. In live pictures, Mo Perry is into the wall, down on the apron. That might not bring out a caution either, but that, I think, will be our first and potentially our second retirements from the race in short order, as maybe the tyre wear starting to get to these drivers.
Yeah, bent suspension on the front right for Mo Perry, who, as I mentioned, was struggling in qualifying. A couple of spins whilst trying to get their qualifying laps in. Just watching him come into pit lane now. Pit speed limits are on, a little bit of a lockup, but yeah, that car's not running straight, and it doesn't look straight either, I'm afraid.
And you see that front wing entirely gone. So James Wright, Mo Perry, both of them going to have some front end damage, and Wright just disconnected. So that's going to be James out of the session. Looks like Hamilton Akabuzi might pick up a position as a result. Still 6 laps down for Hamilton, as James Wright is already 4 laps behind. Bruce Silva right now has just under a 1-second lead. Emily Howe going to be running in the second spot, 0.8 of a second back. A close battle now beginning to come into play here as you look back to the battle for what is 8th. There's Parker Alexander. In addition, you're going to see that number 45 fighting right behind. It's also going to be Sophie Connell. So this is going to be a battle on the outskirts of the top 10. It looks like Parker actually gets the run there using the higher side, and with Homestead, every line is just about viable. From the bottom of the track all the way up, you're going to see drivers taking a multitude of approaches all night long. And that's going to be the big theme of the day here, finding your rhythm and finding your lane. And now, right now, you see it's going to be Sophie Connell down low, Lilac Zier, and right behind Elias Flores. They're taking it a bit up higher, and they're now going to be battling each other for 11th. Flores goes up top, and it's that difference of the room that you have taking out on the higher side to the lower that really can determine how well you do. Flores easily getting the pass and getting the run down to the bottom side, looking on the low side of Mark Parkhurst, and it could be 2 spots in just 2 turns.
Really fantastic moves from Elias Flores. One of the cars gaining half a dozen positions or more in the early runs of this race. With the drivers doing the same. Edson Santos, Eli Sasek, Parker Alexander up 9. Alex Miller up 6, and Carmen Sienna now up 8 positions, started way towards the back of the field, and just slowly been picking them off. Maybe looking after tyres in the early running, didn't really look to be threatening, but now, as we're getting towards the middle of this first stint, it's really starting to make some moves.
Yeah, Edson Santos, as we're going through all of that mid-stint drama, has moved up to P4 in front of Nicholas Pressey, who in himself has lost another position to Bobby Blowers. In fact, as I'm saying that, he's repassed Bobby Blowers and has been repassed once again. As you were saying earlier in the broadcast, Liv, all these early points this early in the season are really going to matter. That puts Nick Pressey now 3 places down on Christina Ryan, as him and Bobby Blowers are still going at it. Only a couple of car lengths between them. That draft really going to come into effect here. Let's see if one of them can make anything work.
And as they fight here, they cost each other time, and Eli Sass and Parker Alexander, 2 cars who have been charging early in the running, are just going to keep closing in 10th after 10th, and before long, it's going to be a 3 or 4 car battle for that spot.
Nicholas Pressey goes up high, trying to get a run, but I don't think he's got a chance right now. Bobby Blowers makes the move and gets back into 5th, and Pressey starting to struggle once again. So the question becomes, maybe Pressey doesn't have it in store for this first stint. We're expecting multiple pit stops on the day, given the fuel window, so it's not the be-all, end-all, but Eli Sasek coming into frame, and that time by, Sasek was about 1/10 of a second faster, slowly but surely gaining, and should be within the room of the 94 by the end of lap 30 here. So as Sasek gains, and this time by, he gains by 1/10.5. It's slowly but surely Pressey who has to pick up the pace, go up top, looking for momentum, and he'll try to barrel down and get back to Bobby Blowers, but it's easier said than done, and I think for Pressey right now, struggling with that dirty air being put off by Blowers, he'll look up high once again, but still not going to have the room. Going to have to set up the pass a little longer as Sasek crawls into frame.
As much as Nick Presti is struggling a little bit right now, this is going to be vital information come the end of the race. As we mentioned, a lot of this race is going to come down to who can take advantage of, all of their skills and make the most of it and see what they can gain as Nick Presti moves to the inside of Bobby Blowers and makes that move stick into turn 3. That high, it slides up just in front of Bobby Blowers, taking that air, but Bobby Blowers slips back to the inside, and they're side by side again to the line. These guys doing everything they can to glean as much information out the early stages of this race and of course hold on to their position, because a well-informed driver is going to be a fast driver at the end of this race. If you can learn how the dirty air affects your car in these specific conditions, it's going to give you a good stint coming down to the final few laps.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a very smooth from Bobby there. Generally, the aero wash is most felt on the entry of the corner. You need the tires to bite in as you turn in. But if you sweep across someone, it can really mess up their late corner. And Presti really tried to make the best of that, and is currently still fending off Bobby as we pass the 20% race distance point. Now on lap 27 comes 28, and I'm going to say the word, we might be starting to look towards pit stops. The fuel window, 35 to 42 laps, a potential 2-stop if you commit to the fuel save from the very start, but I suspect we're looking at more of a 3-stop race, and the window is wide open if anyone wants to take an early undercut.
As much as we are talking about the race strategy, these two are still going side by side.
Yeah.
Tyre temp's well within the window for both of them, clearly, because Bobby Blowers is able to still hold on that inside line. The momentum shift just gone in Nick Presti's favour. I think Bobby perhaps backing out a touch. Yeah, I think he's backing out a little bit more than he has been, as Nick Presti just runs a little bit wide, almost touches that outside barrier, and the momentum shifts back into Bobby Blowers' favour. That little downhill run on the exit of 2 helping Nick Presti out that time. Back to the high side he goes, and sliding up again just a little bit more. I feel like the tyre wear finally starting to get to him a bit here, Olivia.
Yeah, I mean, this thing, the more you run side by side, you're slowing each other up, but you're also putting so much extra work into your tyres. You're asking so much, and when you do it for long enough, you're going to start feeling the pain. So, do you keep trying to fight that battle, or do you say, you can see this one and try and make it work later in the race? Do you make the call to put yourself off cycle and try and move in the pit lane? Because Eli's here, and Parker has followed. Those last, prior to the last couple of laps, they were running decent pace, but those last few laps were not very clean. It's cost them a lot, and now it is a 4-car battle.
Eli Sasek, we mentioned him gaining, and you can see how much closer it is now, and with all the distraction these two drivers have given each other, it also helps Parker Alexander. So the question becomes for Sasek and company that are pulling in, do they want to go for the pass now or wait for pit strategy, because we are expecting stops very soon. We're 32 laps in out of 125. We've come up on just about the quarter mark, and Blowers and Presti likewise take it side by side again, and they're oh so close to each other. Meanwhile, Sasek running his pace lap after lap, trying to figure things out, and I think it's going to help for Eli and Parker Alexander alike, because by the time they get to pit road, which is coming sooner and sooner, they will not have burnt their stuff out and worry each other too much. I think we're going to see a little bit more of a daring move in for Sasek if he's got any more room, because Presti and Blowers, with how close they've been, they don't want to push themselves on a pit road and cause an incident. No contact between them so far, but it's very close there. Wow, Presti right up to the wall.
Just I was thinking that we know there's a lot of factors that are going to come into play in today's race, but one of those things that came into play last week and again today is that driver mentality. Not being able to pass someone is going to really frustrate you, as Nick Presti calls to come in. I think a little bit of damage on the right side of his car there as he comes down onto pit lane a few laps early, but just that side-by-side fighting with Bobby, not being able to get clear of him and pull away. The frustration builds and mounts, although a few other guys coming into the pits as well, so perhaps this is an early strategy stop.
This is about where the fuel will run out if you've been running full push. And we know those drivers were. We had Zach McBride coming 2 laps earlier. Edson Santos actually misses his pit bot. Quite a messy pit entry there, pitted from 4th, was running away from that battle. As yeah, it seems like the whole field's in now. Bruce Silver called in, Nick Presti, Emily Howe. Currently no major mistakes on pit road. We saw Santos miss the pit bot, but No speeding penalties as of yet, but remember, you have to take that access road through 3 and 4. It's a much flatter part of the racetrack, and it's definitely possible to have those mistakes get made, having to run that and then get it stopped at the pit entry. You think you're going slowly, but then it's way too fast for pit road.
Yeah, speaking of Christina Ryan locking up on a pit entry there, mighty close to her mighty close for her getting a penalty there. But just to finish my point quickly, that driver mentality, as the frustration mounts and your focus starts to wear away, that's when those mistakes start to come in. And we were seeing Nick Pressey and Bobby Boyles going at it quite hard towards the end of that stint there. So perhaps that little early stop for Nick Pressey, just that chance to breathe, cool off, get your head back in the rhythm, and then crack on from there.
Yeah, we've seen cars come out of pit lane, and they are stuck a lap down, having to race cars. I had view of Carmen Sienna and Emma Kruder going side by side on different strategies, but obviously the cars who are currently a lap down are going to want to make pace up on the undercut, but they're not going to be let by. These people are racing each other. It's just on the strategy rather than directly on track, so it'll be very interesting to see how the rest of this cycle plays out. Could have some late drama still.
Those fresh tyres already starting to show their head for Nicholas Pressey as he's gone around the outside of Emma Kruger that time. Again, tyres, flat banking, keeping them in check, super important for pace. It almost looked like Emma Kruger was standing still. And to Nicholas Pressey, she probably was.
It looked like that McBride had an extended repair hate on that pit stop. Maybe that's why pit as early as they did. Currently 3 laps down. Might gain one of those back as the rest of the field pits, but a 48-second stop. These cars normally do it in about 7 or 8.
Lilac Zia, your race leader, next down onto pit road. No speeding, nice clean entry. Alex Miller, Emma Kruger following her in. Hopefully some nice clean stops for these guys, and we can get them back out on track soon enough. It's been a really interesting little race so far. A couple of different strategies evolving as we go on. This is probably about as late as these guys are going to want to go on fuel.
Yeah, 40 laps as the rest of the field comes in. It's not quite enough to make the 2-stop work, so if anyone has eyes on that, they'll have to ramp up the fuel saving as they go. But to me, I think this is just an overcut. I think they just wanted to run the fuel a bit longer, make a jump, and they're still planning on making 2 additional stops from here to the end.
Yeah, any fuel that you can save now is really going to pay dividends on that final stop. If you're going long at this stage in the race, it just means your last stop is going to be a lot shorter than it otherwise might have been. But as the field cycles back through, Bruce Silver still out there at the front of the field. Emily Howe only a couple of seconds back with Christina Ryan for company. Edson Santos following her very closely, and then a 3-second gap back to Nicholas Pressey as it stands.
And we're watching that battle with Emily Howe and Christina Ryan right now. Ryan gonna get a bit of a lunge there, but just enough to clear off the end of turn 4. Now with these two drivers keeping each other company, as you mentioned, you gotta look out for the strategies here. Ryan jumping back up into the picture here with Emily Howe, Bruce Silva running away, and the question is what these two drivers can do for their chances at the win here. Silva now about 2 seconds up on the both of them, slowly but surely gaining more and more time, and the advantage is mounting. But you can't think it's all over right now. Ryan getting by Emily Howe and looking consistently quicker so far, but with how close these drivers are on speed and a toe of every lap, I don't think that's indicative of all too much. A bit further back, you see Edson Santos going to keep the both of them some company, laying in the back of the draft right now, maybe trying to creep up on him, but hasn't shown much success of that so far. From 11th, Edson Santos is the only driver in the top 5 who started outside of the top 10, so a big climb for him so far, whereas Emily Howe is going to drop back. Christina Ryan now leading the charge and looks slightly quicker lap over lap compared to Bruce Silva, but nothing major, and we're going to have to keep our eyes peeled on whether or not Ryan can make the gap anything less, or if it's just a fleeting glimpse of more speed.
There's a bit of a tyre advantage that could explain it. Emily Howe, out of these top 5, pit 1 lap later, and Christina Ryan pit 2 laps later. So it might not sound like much, but the gap that Brew probably gained by going for the undercut and having those couple laps flying on fresh tyres, she's going to have to pay those back slowly over the course of this stint, and so we could see Christina Ryan and Emily Howe start to close towards Brew and pull away from Edson and Nicholas Pressey. who both have the same tyre age, and cars further back again, a lot of them on fresher tyres than those 3 drivers. So the field could bunch up a little bit as we get into the second stint of the race.
Just as we're watching now, Nicholas Pressey has managed to pull that roughly 1 second gap to Bobby Blowers. He's got Hamilton Akabuzzi just behind him as a bit of a blocker between those two. But obviously Pressey making the right decision to pit early, because he's not only managed to jump Blowers a bit, he's managed to pull quite a bit of a gap, which is going to keep him a little bit more comfy for this ongoing stint. No battles to speak of at the moment so far though. Everyone very much settled into a rhythm, perhaps just trying to get through the second stint and then see where they cycle out after the final pit stops.
Yeah, I mean, if it's ever a time to fuel save and do a bit of tyre saving, I think now's the time. Everyone's spread out to a point where you've got some clean air to work with. Even if you've got a car in front of you, there's enough room on the racetrack. There's enough lanes that you can find yourself some player room and just look after your machinery right now, and maybe be a bit patient and just make a run towards the end of the stint instead.
Got a few battles further in the field. We're looking at Tucker Sawyer, going to be right there with Elias Flores and Emily Kruger. And it looks like looking even further down, there's Mark Parkhurst on the bottom side. This battle is going to be, relatively speaking, for 13th from Elias Flores on down. So it's a few drivers looking for a few better positions than where they are right now. There are 19 drivers left on the lead lap. This is the final big group of those who are still with the leaders. Kruger going to go down to the bottom side there, looking for some room, just can't complete the pass. And this is the biggest pack we see right now from the leaders on back.
Oh,
They're
Eli
the ones...
Sasek in the wall out of turn 2.
And you're right, Sasek bent up.
And couldn't quite save it. It's a big hit to the inside wall, and that car is meatballed.
Yeah, very much.
Control is calling them in.
Very much a spin on his own there, though. So no caution for that one, which a few of the guys out on track will be wiping their brow of. But yeah, just a really unfortunate error from Eli Sasek there. The car just getting away from him a little bit, as we saw with Lilac Zier on her little practice runs at the end of qualifying there, as he spins on pit entry as well. I think that's his day done today.
Yeah, you saw the car go over that seam, and I saw at Texas, drivers being very aggressive on the controls, trying to get more rotation into their machines. And I think it was just too much for those Firestone tyres to handle.
Yeah, obviously, you've got that little part of the track as you come off the banking. Not only does it go downhill, the track sort of untwists itself, and the cars can get loose over there as the ride heights change front to rear, kind of break that downforce at the front and back of the car, which completely changes up the balance. And at that point, you're driving a completely different race car to one you were driving not even last lap, but a quarter of a second ago.
Yeah, this battle for 12th is still raging on, by the way, as we had to cut away to that instant. 5 cars involved. And you know how I was saying, this is time to use that clean air and settle in a bit? These drivers don't have that luxury. They have cars right in front of them, and I think the way to get clean air, as Emma Kruger is trying to do, is to cut through and get yourself to the lead of this train, drafting up behind Elias Flores, dropping to the low side. But it looks like Flores is defending quite well on the high side for the time.
Yeah, of course, Emma Kruger joining us again this week after an unfortunate early race incident put an end to her running at the Charlotte Roval. This is actually her only Champ Car oval win to date, so perhaps looking to repeat that, but in the position she's in right now, she might need a miracle to get that done.
Yeah, that was a fuel save masterclass, really, back in Season 3. And I did take note of this. Emma Kruger and Lilac Zier were both in that group of cars that pit at the end of the window on lap 40. It's still a little bit short for the time being. But who knows, maybe in the back of their mind they're thinking that could be the way to bring themselves back up into the fight for this race.
Mark Parkhurst going to dive very deep there on Elias Flores. Kruger drops back to 14th. Going to need some very savvy strategy calls, as we mentioned, to get right back up in the mix. A good battle up here so far, and these drivers have kept each other close, that we haven't even looked at the battle up in front. Edson Santos and Christina Ryan, they're going at it now, and that time by, Santos jumps up to 3rd. It's Ryan slotted back into the 4th position. Edson Santos has slowly but surely been making time on Ryan for the past few laps and just barely got the spot last lap, now beginning to pull away. Santos continues to gain, and we saw him quick at Texas, of course, one of the drivers involved in that last lap debacle, up in front. And right now, he's getting himself into the podium once again with trouble.
Oh! A big red, just like Zad McBride with a spin. Trying to get to pit entry, maybe? I'm not quite sure, but collected on the high side of 3 by a couple of our runners there. Elias Flores took a Sawyer, just completely unsighted.
Let's just take a moment here to see what happened.
And that we are, taking a look back with McBride.
Is that that was a wiggle on entry? Was he coming down to pit road? He must have been. That's weird.
I'm wondering if there's a mechanical issue, because he hits the brakes very suddenly on the back stretch.
Oh, it just looks like he starts wiggling the car left to right. I don't really know what's going on there.
I mean, some sort of mechanical issue, maybe a monitor failure, gets onto the apron in 3 and just loses control of the car, and unfortunately comes up the track so fast with this pack racing each other hard. There's nowhere for Flores and Sawyer to go. And so that will be 3 cars out of the race, and our first caution on lap 56. And the field all piles into pit lane. Or most of the field, at least. And they're fanned out 3 wide on pit road right now. Everyone really trying to maximize their entry. We'll see what people go for. I'm assuming you take tyres here. You've got the spare sets. And this is a chance to fuel up. And at this point, it's a one-stop sprint to the end from here.
Yeah, this kind of mid-race caution gonna wipe some of the strategy elements out of this race. Everyone pretty much going to be in exactly the same spot going forward. It would have been interesting.
How? First off pit road.
Oh, well, there you go then. That's where some of that fuel saving comes into play. Emily Howe, of course.
Silver potentially spared. Is being forced to let a lot of cars by here.
Is that going to be an EOL for them? But again, it's one of those things to
no!
What's happened?
What happened? Bruce Silver followed the pace car through 3 and 4 before dropping onto the access road. We're running the open wheel layout. You have to pit on the access road, committed to it late, and as a result, it's being sent to the tail end of the field. So a huge mistake for our race leader here.
Yep, that'll do it. Something else to note as well, Edson Santos has managed to jump Christina Ryan down pit road. So it's going to be, when we come to green shortly, Emily Howe and Edson Santos at the front. Edson has very much been preferring that low side throughout the entire race so far, been making most of his moves down there. And Emily Howe, been one of those drivers, well, one of most of those drivers who's been keeping it on the high side all race so far. So it's going to be really interesting to see how their preferred lines mix coming into these last 64 laps or so. Seeing if we get either a bit of a battle, or whether they're just going to be side by side for the entire rest of the stint.
Yeah, we go by stock car rules for cautions here. We still restart single file, of course, but we do have use of the lucky dog. Brandon Cruz took that. Hamilton previously was looking to take the wave around, but disconnects from the session again. It seems like his race will be done. Did pick up 4 spots from where he started, but was always to be on the back foot, and I think needed a caution fest really to make major moves throughout this field. But it will be Emily Howe leading the field now again, as we were, I think, 2 to green here, so just a little bit more time before we get running again at about the halfway point.
As much as a caution fest would have been, as much of a caution fest would have been dramatic, I think we're really lucky in that we have such a talented and very skilled field of drivers that it's not something we've had to worry about this season so far. I'm not trying to jinx it. I'm not trying to put a commentator's curse on it. I'm just remaining hopeful and complimenting how good and clean our drivers have been so far.
Yeah. Quick update from the Twitch chat. Caught up with Zach McBride. It was a screen freeze. Just lost vision in that car coming out of turn 2. Tried to bring it down safely onto the apron, but there's not much you can do when you can't see where you're going. And a really unfortunate end to the race for Zach and for the other 2 cars involved. Again, racing has mechanical failures. It's no different in the virtual world, and it's a shame to see, but it's just one of those things.
It's one of those you know, giant bugs. He just didn't quite get to his tear off on time, so he couldn't see.
We'll go with that.
Emily Howe in
It's hard to
control.
tear off. It's an aero screen.
This time by
yeah,
with
good point.
McBride, yeah, the screen issue. How about that? Now, the worst of it, of course, is the fact that it went out and then came right back up, but happens. These hardware failures, we've seen it tonight, connection and the screen. Hopefully we don't see any more, because mechanical failures in the real world have impacted us quite a lot tonight, I'd say. Howe in control, restart number 1, here we go again.
Oh, and a little bit of contact at the back of the field, just a very slight checkup. I think both drivers have gotten away with it for the most part, but there's a repeat of what we saw at Texas on one of the restarts. Up at the front, though, it's Emily Howe and Edson Santos, 3 wide with Christina Ryan for a second. They are not wasting any time. They know it's one stop to the end. They don't have to worry about fuel, and already there's 5 cars under a blanket here, maybe more.
Oh, look at the momentum that Chrissy was able to build up on that home stretch that time by. She is trying to make that outside line work, as she does. Straight to the outside of Edson Santos on the exit of 2. Plenty of speed being built up in the draft by Edson, though, to hold on to that position so far, as they continue side by side through 3. Christina Ryan on that high side still. Edson Santos pinched to the inside behind Emily Howe. Very much, though, Christina Ryan taking advantage of that clean air being left to her by the leader. These two, obviously not teammates, but they've been racing together for years at this point. So if Emily can help out her friend, she's going to. Christina Ryan gets that move done, up into P2. Edson Santos to the inside once again, but no momentum down there at the moment. Christina Ryan just took him back into the slipstream of Emily Howe on the exit of 3, letting that speed build again. And I think that's that move done. What a move.
Alexander now fighting for 4th, and it's another 3-car pack. Here for P6, Carmen Sienna, Bobby Blowers, and Lila Zier ripping the inside. Trying to clear, but Carmen Sienna's fighting back to that momentum on the outside.
You know, we saw Lilac Zier taking that later stop compared to everyone else, so she's had to take less fuel than everyone else, and that's really helped her out. She's made up 3 positions just on the pit stops alone. It's put her in this position to be fighting alongside Carmen Sienna for a top 5 at the moment.
Lilac Zier gaining big from 12th up to 7th on the race so far, but Karen Sienna, how about the number 96 crew from 23rd up to 6th, and now in contention for a top 5, the biggest mover so far by a long shot tonight, and coming from the tail end of the pack all the way up. And we spoke, of course, to Carmen previously in the pre-race stages of this event. It was all about the race, knowing that every driver will qualify in, so the focus was on the long term here. And now 68 laps in, the fruits of that labor are coming into fruition, and Sienna remains right behind the battle once again between Pressy and Parker Alexander. Alexander goes up to the top side to try to get clearance here, but Pressy looks to have just a bit enough to stay right behind. Tucks in, going down the front straightaway. Parker Alexander is going to remain here in the 4th spot, but Nicholas Pressy looking up top to once again get that momentum, rolling off the high side, trying to put some speed back into it, and setting up for another chance for the position number 4. Christina Ryan still going to be there with Edson Santos, and as Emily Howe begins to pull away, Santos is still right there within 1/10 of a second, so the gap is not necessarily open too wide. Edson keeping Christina Ryan very honest so far, however it fluctuated in that time by. Santos actually lost several tenths of a second. Maybe now Christina Ryan pulling away and hoping to do so for good. As you can see, Pressy and Alexander so close to one another.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if the best thing that she would have right now is have her friend Emily pull away, because currently there's just enough to, yes, give Christina a problem. But if Emily can pull another couple of attempts, maybe that'll give Christina the ability to pick whatever line she wants. And it's a similar story for P4 and P5. You see those little pockets open up, and it then leads to the racing in the cars behind. Pressy still struggling to find a way past Parker Alexander, following so closely, and Carmen Sienna's right here now. Carmen Sienna has been on a charge in this race, and it's now up to P6, up 17 positions, wanting to make it 18.
No fuel saving required for the rest of this race, unless you want to make that last stop a little bit shorter. Carmen Sienna's foot, I can imagine, very much glued to the floor right now, as she looks to the inside for a way past Nicholas Pressy. Isn't going to make it work this time. Too much dirty air from the back of Parker Alexander's car, not going to help her out here. Although Edson Santos and Christina Ryan at the front still going at it, as Edson has managed to get past Christina through turns 3 and 4 last time. That dirty air that you were talking about, Olivia, being thrown back to her by Emily Howe, really not helping her out. She stays tucked in behind Edson, looking to the high side. Edson back down to the inside. Christina holding it through that middle to high lane, not making it work that time. That slightly longer run not helping her out, but she's back in the slipstream on the way down to turns 1 and 2. The speed builds again as we come back into 1 and 2. Same side for both of these drivers. That's slightly slower but tighter inside line, really working for Edson Santos right now, as he's been making it do for him for most of this race so far.
And we see now Santos in that runner-up position, beginning to build that gap. Parker Alexander going to be in 4th right now, clearly. Nicholas Pressey getting nowhere right now with Carmen Sienna, and Sienna still staying right on the backside here. Can that number 96 of Carmen Sienna pull something together? And if she were to, can Lilac Zier also come into this one? You can see there, Lilac going to be just a few tenths of a second away, gaining once again back in, made those gains during the pit cycle, and all of a sudden, back in contention during this green flag run. Carmen going to come down the back straightaway in the front yet again, still behind Pressey, but going to lunge low and try to take that position. Now they're going to be about half a car length separate, but it looks like it's just not enough off the exit of those corners, and that's the real difference. If you control the corner, you most likely control that lap. So Carmen gonna back off once again, go down low, try to get that clean air, and looking for that clean air is all that can be done right now as the two drivers, the pair, make it down the front straightaway. Pressey looks to defend just slightly low, but it's gonna be a lunge much deeper this time by Carmen that gets them wheel to wheel a few lanes apart. Coming right back up the track, Carmen close, but not enough that time by, still preparing for what's next.
Yeah, I mean, the problem you have, you can get alongside mid-corner by diving that low side, but you've got like 5 miles an hour extra, 8 kilometers, when you come off that high lane, launch down on the edge of the corner, it's like a slingshot, and it's going to put you back ahead by the time you enter turn 3. So your work is extra difficult. You kind of have to get clear of the car ahead to then come up and take that momentum and cut that momentum off, because otherwise they can just fight it right back on the straightaway.
Carmen Sienna leaving plenty of room for Nicholas Pressey on the high side, leaving just about a car's width each time she comes up. The thing about oval racing is you need to make use of all that space that you can, but obviously on the iRacing service, when sometimes connections aren't that reliable, that could cause a wreck. As I'm saying that, Carmen Sienna pulling to the inside has made that move work on Nick Pressey, who hasn't got enough to come back at him, as Lilac Zier dives to the inside of both of them now. Maybe going to slide up in front of Nicholas Pressey here. But that's going to be a position gain for Lilac Zier, and in the course of 1 lap, 2 places lost for Nicholas Pressey. Lilac Zier looking to the inside of Carmen now, who's having the reverse on her as they nearly make contact mid-corner. Lilac Zier having to back off massively in the middle of 1 and 2 there. Carmen Sienna holds on to P5 for now.
Yeah, Pressey is going to be swearing to Carmen in that cockpit, not just making the move, but then in 3 and 4, opting for the higher lane that Pressey has been using so much. And suddenly, Pressey had absolutely no run, and Lilac can just swoop down in the clear air of the low side and take the position straight back as well.
And Racecraft coming into a full affair here with Bobby Blowers in the mix, and with Pressey losing so much time, the driver who's running almost a full second back all of a sudden has a chance. Lunges deep, but not at all the follow-through he'd like, so Blowers is going to get back into line, but you can see now Nicholas Pressey definitely stunted as a result of that battle. Lilac Zier pulling through for 6th, and while Pressey remains in 7th here, the pressure beginning to mount once again. Bobby Blowers remaining just about a 1/10 of a second away, if not less than that. And you can see that number 34 taking it down to the bottom side again. Bobby gonna look low, maybe have enough room to stay with them down the front straightaway. They are gonna be almost side by side, but Blowers has to pull right back in.
It's smart racing from our championship leader here. He knows that he's still got the championship lead as it stands, but obviously with Christina Ryan currently ahead of him, she's going to retake the championship lead. As much as he knows every point counts, it's really important to keep your car alive. It's much better to score some points than it is to score none. Nick Pressey thinking or making the decision that discretion is the better part of valor here, and perhaps just trying to keep the car alive for the end of this race.
Yeah, I mean, Christina's only in 3rd right now, and is currently under a little bit of pressure from Parker Alexander. So I think Pressy might still be okay for the championship lead, but it is going to close that gap. And Christina, with one fewer week, will make that back as a drop week to into play later in the season. Meanwhile, further down the order, it's Gearcats versus Dodbots, as Lily Pelate Sharp and Sophie Connell are our new closest battle for 13th position here, and it has been very close racing. As Zach McBride tries to bring this car out of pit lane after taking those lengthy repairs and hopefully checking those margin connections one last time.
Looking for any points available. Zach McBride, 11 laps down on the next closest car as it stands. 29 laps down on our leader. Hopefully he's going to do everything he can to stay out of the way of the guys who are out there racing tonight. But I'll tell you what, Spirit of the Race Award already goes straight to Zach McBride for today.
Yeah, stayed on the apron out of everybody's way, is going to line in behind all of the lead lap cars and just feel this car out for a little bit. You have to do a couple of laps to work out whether it's able to run. It looks he's not too confident. It might bring it back down pit road here, but you've got to try. As a racer, you always want to see the checkered flag, and you've got to do everything, even if you know it's against you.
Nicholas Pressy is again side by side with another driver on track right now. Emma Kruger has made her way up to P9 and is knocking on the door of P8 as it stands. Nick Pressy really struggling as they nearly make contact on the exit of turn 4. But Nicholas Pressy really struggling in these late stages of the stints. Perhaps not using his tools as he should to try and get a little bit more rotation out of that car. And it's really starting to cost him.
Emma Kruger going to go for a look here, and you mentioned it, Pressy continuing to fall down, and right now it looks like he's going to be a paperweight on the circuit. He tries to lunge through further. It looks like Kruger going to back off, but those continued troubles are becoming more and more apparent. You can see Alex Martin also pulling into the frame. It's an abundance of drivers who now know Pressy is vulnerable inside the cockpit here, and they're now looking for new ways to make those positions. Up high, Pressy's going to take it once again. The defense working for now, but it's not going to be perfect as Kruger goes down, dives deep, and might have a chance to clear this time by, although it's that high side, the best thing Nick Pressy has going for him.
Yeah, pit cycle has been cracked open by Brandon Cruz here. It's a little bit early, but I think, judging by the length of the stop, a wind change mandated that early stop, and who knows, people might try and respond here, because Cruz was running on the lead lap before that pit stop, currently 2 down. And Bobby Blowers, it looks like, is going to make that call.
And Nicholas Pressy coming into pit lane as well. Yeah, this is it. This is our final stops of the race. As he locks up on pit entry, just like Christina Ryan did last stint, just about getting it under the pit lane speed limiter. So maybe wanted to get rid of these old tyres at this point. Way too much fighting early in the stint, perhaps, for him. Just wanted to get on some fresh rubber and try and make something work now.
Of course, you might try and go for a strategy. It blows the pit bots. Oh, that's a nightmare stop. Pressy probably going to fall down the order. Of course, at a track like Pocono, you might make the early course stop, because if a caution comes out, or just like a road course, you'll stay lead lap and you'll cycle through to the lead. But here, you're going 1 lap down. If a caution comes out now, you'll have to take a wave around. And so, the early stop less preferable, but of course, if you can nail it, get in and out smoothly, which Pressy unfortunately couldn't do, you have a chance for the undercut on the fresh tyres to try and make some spots up in the pit cycle itself. As Parker Alexander gets past Christina Ryan here. They're racing very close to P3. Christina Ryan swoops back to the low side coming out of turn 2 and will try and take that spot back. But as the pit cycle really starts to open, you've got to wonder, is it worth fighting this right now? And Christina can't sit the low side. Maybe she needs those fresh tyres to make that spot back.
Every lap you don't do on this set of tyres, you have to do on your set of tyres at the end of the race. Christina Ryan perhaps staying out just to give herself less to do on that next set of rubber, just to keep them in check for a little bit longer. She almost scrapes the wall on the entry to turn 3, keeping it on that high side once again, but leaving herself vulnerable on the low side to lapping traffic, obviously on fresher tyres.
Yeah, you see how powerful those fresh tyres are with how easily Cruz is able to make that move against drivers who are running on the fringes of the podium here. But it doesn't matter when the Firestone's giving up on you. Tries to make move on Parker Alexander now. and looks like he will clear on the exit of 4. These two drivers know each other very well from Winstel, which starts up on Sunday on ABN 1, driving Gen 4 machinery around Daytona. Alpion Tread's there as well, coming out of retirement a little bit. But yeah, these two know each other very well, giving each other a lot of room. Christina, probably very much the same. Oh, and Emily Howe dives onto pit road, and Edson Santos makes a late dive to follow. Edson wanted to respond immediately, make the spot immediately on pit road, and is right there as the leaders come down pit lane here for the final time in this race.
But what a dive that was. You saw how deep Santos took it to try to get up there with Emily Howe. The gap is a single car length as they go in this time by. Now it looks like it's going to be Edson Santos who drops in first and makes it into the pit stall quickly and pretty easily. Both of them will make their stalls, so no trouble there. The question is there going to be any difference in the call? It looks like Santos is rolling, and that could be major. They come out at the cone. Still, It's going to be Emily in control. Wow.
It's hard to ignore the pace that Edson Santos has had this stint, though. Able to cut through the field, starting relatively deep on the last restart, right on the tail of Emily Howe now, and has just been cutting that gap down lap after lap. This is going to be a fight for the last 28 here.
Yeah, now's the time to make an attack. You might think the car head's a bit flat-footed, not sure how to run at this reduced pace. They're now up to full speed, but Edson Santos has gotten to the outside line. Can Emily Howe on those fresh tyres stick to the inside well enough to hold on to this spot? I don't think she'll be able to. Edson Santos with a nose ahead coming out of turn 2 as the rest of the field starts to cycle through pit lane. And it looks like once the field cycles through, it might be a new leader, but they are racing so close for this position here. Let's not have a repeat of Texas, please.
It's a new leader across the line. Edson Santos leads his first laps of these races.
Well, Sophie Connell still
Sophie Connell. That's me losing track of everything once again. This fight way too exciting at the moment.
A net race lead, and Emily Howe has taken it back in 1 and 2 and tries to shoulder Edson Santos to the outside here. But this is tight racing, and we still got 26 laps to go. Anything could happen here.
Up to the high side, there goes Santos once again, and you mentioned it, we're at lap 100, but there's still time to spare. Going to be exactly 26 remaining, and with Emily Howe now going down the back straightaway, you gotta wonder, what's Edson Santos going to do here to set it up at the very end? Now, we know, of course, what happened at Texas with Edson Santos, and that didn't go all to plan. That doesn't mean it's going to happen again here with how close these two drivers are. I think now it's going to be all about going through and thinking of every idea possible to make that final setup the perfect setup and go deep when it matters the most. Right now, Santos is going to go way up high. He's going to back down once again, keeping the gap within about a quarter of a second. He's got the room to lay off and stay in the tow. And now it's going to be maybe not a waiting game. They're racing each other very, very hard. But the question is, the waiting game gives way to the final stretch, and that push at the end is going to be make or break quite literally for both of these drivers.
No draft help for Emily Howe as it stands right now. She's running straight into the very dense Florida sunshine. Sorry, the very dense Florida air. Cutting a hole in it for Edson Santos behind, who's able to use that to build momentum and try and make that attack work. He's been on her from the start of the stint so far, and his best bet is to keep that pressure on and try and make Emily crack. A very difficult thing to do. An extremely experienced driver out here at the front of the field. She's going to be putting that car in places he ain't going to expect it, and he's going to have to react.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we did see an uncharacteristic mistake from Emily at Texas, but that was under the pressure of a dominant Hamilton Busey. And she was trying to chase him down. I think from the lead of the race, she'll be a lot more comfortable. She's been in this position so many times in stock car machines. She's going to try and put that defense on. But as these two run side by side, Parker Alexander in that third position has a bit of a breakaway from the cars behind and is now just about a second behind our second place runner, and is going to be starting to feel that hole punch in the air on the straightaway. Of course, it's a blessing on the straights, it's a curse in the corners, but Parker has enough room to take the opposite line to Edson. Slowly but surely is starting to close up as Emily puts a 6/10 gap on the 20 car.
Yeah, Parker Alexander has got a lot of pace compared to Edson Santos at the moment. It's very important how you bring your tyres in on ovals, road courses alike. So perhaps Santos burnt his rubber up a little bit too much at the start of the stint, and it looks like he's really starting to feel it. Gap to Emily 6/10, but gap behind only 9/10 of a second. As soon as that speed starts to build for Parker Alexander, as long as he's getting his lines right, he's going to close that gap down really quickly. And then maybe we're going to get treated with a three-way fight for the win.
Now, I'll tell you this much, Alexander was making gains, but when we look at the lap times, it's very, very close. Maybe too close to call in terms of making those gains. That time by Emily Howe was 6/100ths of a second quicker. Edson Santos is the driver that's actually losing the most out of all of these three drivers, so that's not good at all for his chances here. And you got to wonder, maybe there isn't something in store the way things are looking. 19 laps to go, and Parker Alexander may have a chance at second here, but if Edson Santos continues to fall further back, there might not be a chance for either of which at the race win. Of course, Emily Howe has the lead, but it's not all said and done. Still a few lappers in mind. There's Brandon Cruz. We saw Cruz go so quickly by those drivers on the older tires. He's now in the exact same position. Last driver on the lead lap, running 16th as it stands, and he's going to be put one down as Emily Howe quickly makes it by that number 54. Quick move there by Emily to make another pass, and as such, the closest battle is no longer up in front, but instead, if you look a bit further back, you'll see Bruce Silva and Ruby Estes going at it, or at least they were previously. Estes now going to be in the draft, waiting to get back in the tow fully and get the speed to maybe carry through 3 and 4 and put a lunge down. The mid-pack, they're still as close as it gets, while your front runners begin to feel that final divide, which might persist till it's all said and done.
Yeah, a little bit of a wiggle coming off turn 2 for Bruce Silva, has given Ruby Estes the advantage that they need to take P10 coming into turn 3. Easy move
We're
made.
racing for second place here.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. There is a fight at the front of the field for P2, as we were watching that fight unload. I was going to say about Emily Howe, though, very intelligent race car driver in that IR18. If we've noticed that Edson Santos prefers the inside line, she's noticed it as well. She's been taking the air off that inside line consistently, every single corner, lap after lap after lap. You can see that Edson Santos hasn't quite got the experience that he needs on the high side. As Parker Alexander makes that move to the inside, not struggling with that air, slides up in front of Edson Santos, who has to check up, both of them having to check up a little bit. Edson maybe a little bit more, but looking to that inside once again to try and take back P2. Parker Alexander staying on the outside as they are wheel to wheel with a few car widths between them, mind. But the momentum on that outside for Parker Alexander is going to help him keep a hold of that second place position for now. Brilliant racing for Parker there.
And you know who's smiling right now, looking in her mirrors?
Emily Howe.
The 83 of Emily Howe. The gap is now 1.4 seconds with these two cars behind, fighting for the last spots on the podium. And Emily's able to run away with it for now. They've got to get lined up if they want to try and make a charge back at her. But with just 12 laps to go at the line, might be too little too late.
Parker Alexander with the spot, getting jumper to the second, but it's a 1.4 second gap here. So Alexander would have to be much quicker. And I think right now, even though quicker than Edson Santos, the burn from the tire on those Firestones after putting the charge into play, it's just going to be too little, too late. And it looks like that time by 26 flat for Emily Howe, whereas it was a 25.978 for Parker Alexander. Slightly quicker, but that's such a small difference that with the lap count we have remaining, it's not going to do all too much. So maybe there's going to be a bit more for Parker Alexander in his favor this time by not being blocked. That time, though, was a 26.011, and Emily was quicker. No tow, nothing but the clean air really working in the 83's favor. 25.866, and your leader still the quickest in the top 3, so I don't think we'll see much change right there. Looking further back, though, the battling in the tail end of your lead lap is closer than anyone else. You'll see a bit of a bundle. Alex Martin, Ruby Estes got away, but there's also Bruce Silva and Sophie Connell. Bruce Silva never really recovered from the early incident, of course, in regards to pit road, and that was the make or break moment. That pit road penalty sent to the back of the field, and from then on out has not been the race desired by this 36 team from the pole down to 12th. Just not a recovery necessary, or rather adequate, given how much speed they had before.
Yeah. If you have a chance to hop back to lap 110 in the battle down outside the top 10, Sophie Connell and Lily Pelletier-Sharp had a very scary moment that led to a great save from the driver of the 18 car. could have very easily been a caution to throw a wrench in this one, but Olivia Chase Sharp doing a good job to hold on to it and keeping the race green for now. As Connell and Silver are racing teammates, of course, for Dodbox Racing, not to make it too difficult for each other. And that's Sophie up to 12th position now. Gap at the front though, 1.8 seconds. Emily Howe has seen that clean air and is trying to use it to all of her advantage, is trying to keep that gap steady to Parker Alexander. And with just 7 laps to go, there's not much the Parker can do here. I think Parker has to hope for a late caution to make it a 2 or 3 lap shootout, and then. But everyone's so spread out, it's not particularly likely we get one of those cautions. And again, Lily Pale-Chase Sharp doing a great job saving the car after contact to not bring that caution out. Everyone trying to get this race done as quickly as possible, and that is playing right into Emily Howe's hands.
In the final laps here, everyone more spread out than ever before. Don't think there's any major battles for the time being. Carmen Sienna got by Lilac Zier, but that was much beforehand. Emma Kruger might give a run now to Lilac, and with 6 laps to go, it's do or die in this final segment. So Kruger going to drop down to the bottom side, look for the pass, and as such, it looks like now it's going to be Emma Kruger holding on to 6th. For the time being. It's going to be a good run there from Lilac Zier, maybe some defense from Kruger at the line. 5 laps remaining, and this could be the final big battle on the track tonight. Parker Alexander is gaining. However, it's just not at a pace that's sustainable to fight for the lead. 1.1 seconds back, so he's gained about 0.3 of a second since establishing himself as the second place driver, and with the lap machine right there, maybe a bit more assistance. Mo Perry not making it easy. The gap's now 0.7.
Late drama here. Mo Perry running 20 laps down after an early incident. Emily Howe does get through, and now it's Parker's job. Can Parker cut through any easier to try and put pressure on as we come to 3 laps to go? Less than 5 miles of racing left here in Miami. And it looks like Emily Howe, the car that was giving her trouble for the last few laps, is now her best friend as Mo Perry wanting to stick to that top side. Parker's had to force go low into the dirt, yeah, but Parker's clear, and within 0.3. This could all be on the line here in the final 5 miles. We're coming to 2 laps to go here, and it's all to play for again.
Coming around this time through with 2 laps to go. Parker Alexander in the best position he's been all throughout this stint. Was the quicker driver, just didn't look sustainable. And with Mo Perry there in the mix, it was Emily Howe who fell into the dirty air and could not recover. Now it's going to be a back straightaway full of swerving back and forth. Alexander now going to be just within 0.3 of a second at the line last time through. It was 277 thousandths. This time by, we take it to the white flag. Final lap in this race will be official. Howe's got the race lead, and Alexander's going to send it very deep through 1 and 2, takes it up to the top of the track, and you got to wonder, can there be any lunge made, or does Emily Howe have it said and done from this point? Final 2 turns, Emily up top, no need to defend, and as Parker Alexander goes down to the bottom side, it looks like the hot pursuit will end in failure. Emily Howe defends to the checkered flag and wins the Miami 300. It looked like a thriller at the end, but paying attention, keeping calm, and holding fort, Emily Howe will win yet again.
Fantastic finish. It was the line chosen in 1 and 2 that really decided it there. Parker Alexander tried to swoop low, expecting Emily to take the high side, but Emily Howe, friends, giving themselves a little bit of friendship you see more often in stock cars. But yeah, Parker tried to shoot for the low side, but Emily committed to the same line. And if you go back to it, you just see Parker's front wheels fail to grip on the entry of the corner. It just slides up the track, and then he's got no run. Couldn't do anything from there. Emily's lead way too much.
I'll tell you what, though, we saw Carmen Sienna pulling up alongside Emily Howe there. Oh, what a result for that team. P1 and P5.
Yeah, of course. Carmen coming from the very back of the grid to finish P5. And yeah, both drivers for Arrowhead Racing. That is going to be a big hole in the point standings that until now has been dominated by Nicholas Pressey E Motorsports. but not the result they were hoping for. Nicholas Pressey only finishing P9 here. So the team's championship heating up for sure.
And taking a look at the end of that celebration, it looks like it's going to be just about the end, just to burn down the wall a little bit more, and rightfully so. A strategy following at the hand of this 83 team, but at the same time, Parker Alexander didn't make it easy at all, I'll tell you that much. At the very end, coming through with Mo Perry in the dirty air, it looked like we have a real fight there to the finish, and even though Parker gave it all there was, just was no match at the end of the night. With that being said, results are just about finalized, and how about we take a look as we're going to find out who finished where. Of course, we're looking at your winner, who continues to shred the tires. And the Firestones are just about gone. For Emily Howe, who gets the checkered flag over Parker Alexander in second, Edson Santos in third, and Christina Ryan then in fourth. Carmen Sienna rounds out the top five, and the biggest mover from 23rd on up, as it's Emma Kruger then sixth, Lilac Zier in seventh, and Bobby Blowers then eighth, as Nicholas Pressey comes through with ninth, and Ruby Estes rounds out the top 10.
Alex Martin, Sophie Connell, Mark Parkhurst, Bruce Silver, and Lily Pelletier-Sharp all holding on to the lead lap there and bringing home a top 15 finish from our single caution race at Miami. Alex Miller and Brandon Cruz and Mo Perry managing to bring their cars to the finish various numbers of laps down, and then Zach McBride, Tucker Sawyer, Elias Flores all caught up in that unfortunate incident caused by a hardware failure to bring out our only caution of the night. They'll round out the fringe of the top 20. Artaki Busey, Eli Sassett, Kevin Young, and James Wright round out our field for tonight's race.
You know, it's not uncontroversial to say that Emily Howe has got a lot of race wins in iRacing in loads of different types of cars. But it's so awesome to see, like, from the way she celebrated that win, that it still matters to her. Like, she still enjoys it, and she's still absolutely ecstatic when she takes a win. It's a nice feeling, even if you've done it hundreds and hundreds of times. And I'm just so pleased that she was able to show that passion and show that enjoyment to us tonight.
Yeah, well, it's her first in Champ Car. Of course, back to Chicagoland, denied by Christina Ryan by mere thousandths of a second this time. She gets to take home the checkered flag all by herself. And yeah, you know it means a lot. Every win means something, but when you're first in the series, I think it's that extra special feeling. And celebrations for her and Christina in Charlotte tonight for sure.
How about that event here in Miami? We got all of our top three waiting to speak with us, and I think it's best if we hear from the drivers who really put on the show tonight. Only one caution, and otherwise, a very clean performance through and throughout, and all of the top three on the podium tonight gave us a show to remember. Tell you this much, we have Edson Santos coming up first, our third place finisher tonight, so we'll have our driver, the number 20, standing by right now. He's with us, third place finisher, Edson Santos.
Edson, congratulations on a fantastic P3 finish there. How does that feel?
So, hello guys, good night. Those of you on the broadcast and everyone who watched the race. So, if you let me, first of all, I need to mention something. 3 weeks ago in the race in Novo, Texas, I guess, I was in second place. A little chance of winning the race, but in the outside line, but then in exit of the turn 4. The last lap, I touched Hamilton Akabuezi. Sorry, I don't know exactly the pronounce. That touch took away his victory. It was a mistake of my part, of course, unintentionally. That if it changed the result at the end, I apologize to him. But it's important to me to speak here in public, even for those who were watching. It should ugly and clearly unfair for him. But now about today, I try to improve my quali to start as far in front as could be possible. I didn't know what effect the setup could have on drag, like understeering, if I came from the bottom. But there was an error in the quali configuration. I don't know, because the tank was full and different from the leagues that I trained. Anyway, I started from P11. It was very hard, to increase, to gain positions, but with patience, strategy to go up. So the yellow ones got in the way a little, unfortunately, disturbed. In the last restart, I had the chance to take the P1, but Emily was defending the position so well, able to keep this until the end. I left the car, got in my way a lot, so disturbed me, and I don't know why. Anyway, I ended up with dirty air and losing P2, but I have to be here. So I'd love to send hugs for all my team members in Brazil, Linear Energy, and I hope to be here in another races too.
Yep. Congratulations once again on the
Thank
P3,
you.
Edson, and
Thank you.
thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, with Edson Santos there, we thank him for his time. We have, of course, two more drivers there on the podium. A great sum up, I would say, from the driver's perspective from Edson there. So how's about we hear from Parker Alexander, the driver who had to move so late into the runner-up seat and gave it his all till the very end. Parker Alexander standing by right now.
Hey, Parker, this is Olivia from the ABN booth. Do you have a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, what a finish that was. Late drama, chasing down Emily. How a laps car gave you one last chance, but it'll have to be P2. How does it feel on debut coming into machinery that is so far from the Gen 4 machines you typically drive and putting a result as good as that on the table?
It feels really good. Yeah, I'd like to, and also I'd like to thank Mo Perry for running 26 laps down and getting involved for no reason at all. That was cool. Really helped me out there. But yeah, this thing's a lot different than that Gen 4. A lot more grip, a lot more speed, but nothing I can't really handle. These things I've driven these things before. I even did a couple races last night on Indy Fixed. So yeah, these things I've really taken a liking to these things recently, and really looking forward to doing more.
Yeah, of course, we're thick into the oval stretch of this calendar now. Las Vegas up next week on potentially patch day. You think you're gonna come back for that one, and how are you seeing that challenge of a 1.5 miler with a very different mechanic to it?
Absolutely right. It is a very different mechanic. A lot more speed there. A lot more closer pack racing. I feel like, and yeah, I'll definitely be here for that. I love racing these things at Las Vegas. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to the rest of the season. Hopefully.
That's wonderful to hear. And of course, while you're in the booth, we have to ask about the newest ABN partnership of Winstel starting up on Sunday night with the Daytona 500. Back in your stock car machine that you're so familiar with. How are you looking forward to that?
I'm really looking forward to that. We got a loose setup for that machine around Daytona, so that should make it a little bit more interesting than what most Gen 4 restrictor plate races are. And I'm looking forward to getting this number 5 Kellogg's machine rolling for this season.
I'll see you on track there. But yeah, an incredible battle there. If there's anything else you want to say about that run to the line, I know you and Emily go way back, so of course, any comments on that, and anyone you want to shout out from any of your team here, the floor is yours. Congratulations on a P2 finish here on debut tonight.
Yeah, I just want to thank ABN for putting on this league. Thank ABN for broadcasting this, and Winstel. And I want to thank this field of cars, man. We had a real good race tonight, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. Want to thank Emily and Christina for being good teammates out there. Cruz as well. And yeah, looking forward to the rest of the season, and yeah, really excited.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. We'll, of course, see you on Sunday, and later on from that on Wednesday. Thank you for joining us, Parker.
Thank you.
And as such, Parker Alexander, the driver who gave such a fight at the end of the day, second tonight, runner-up finish, and it's a performance to remember, fighting alongside a driver very familiar to him. And of course, we've mentioned Winsdale competition coming up tonight, though. The open wheel fix, Emily Howe with 65 laps led. And how about we speak to your race winner? When all was said and done, it all came down to that final stretch. Of course, just a few tenths of a second separate victory from defeat, and defense alongside 65 laps led and strategy played out just right give way to a victory here in Homestead. How does it feel with the checkered flag collected in Miami?
It feels good. It feels like kind of a good redemption from the tough luck we've had this season. I mean, between the second place and the photo finish at Chicago and then wrecking and then getting wrecked again at Texas. Felt good to kind of get in here and finally get that win. A lot of fun tonight. Kind of hard to get around the leader once the leader got to the bottom, but racing in the pack was a lot of fun and really had to keep it up in the handling the whole night.
And oh, so important it was with the clean air, the dirty air, and as you mentioned, the handling affected all throughout the night because of the way these drivers, of course, were so close to each other almost all throughout. Now, the first half of the race, you weren't the clear winning favorite. However, it all changed with that caution giving way to our only restart of the night, and eventually strategy and pulling through, getting that lead and holding on even despite the challenges at the very end. Was there anything in particular that you felt was the key to success in giving way to the victory?
Definitely the battle of pit road there with Santos during the last green flag pit cycle. She had a really good exit, or a really good entry and got up to my bumper at the pit exit. So it was a really battle there trying to get the tires at the temp and also keep him be able to clear and get to the bottom. So I think, in 3 and 4, the first or second lap after we stopped, I mean, he was damn near clear, and I was just enough at his left rear that he couldn't pull down in front of me and get that air. So I think that was kind of the key moment of the race for me.
And a moment like that, of course, separating the victory from defeat and giving way to a win here, which, of course, a big deal as we're in the oval stretch, as you mentioned, of the schedule. This is when it all gets down to not similar tracks, but in some aspects, a similar style. We see success here, and of course, we've seen you, as you mentioned previously, when it comes down to Winsdale and such. Now, of course, these champ cars are oh so different. With the coming races, and we're going to take a look at what is coming up next in particular, how do you think you're going to be able to perform with the next tracks on the schedule? Particularly Las Vegas, which is coming up next week.
Yeah, Las Vegas is definitely something I'm looking forward to. Hopefully it should be like Chicago, and we'll be spread out a lot and get a lot of the track kind of used up and go to move around. It kind of felt like tonight you really couldn't do much moving. Homestead's a weird kind of track geometrically where you're not on the straights very long, so the draft really doesn't come into much play, and then also you're taking such big arcs in the corner that if you're behind somebody, you're just in dirty air the entire corner, no matter really what line you run. Vegas should hopefully be more like Chicago, a traditional mile and a half, where you have that room to really spread out and choose different lanes and really make it up through the field and make your own destiny.
And controlling destiny tonight, the checkered flag flies tonight. Emily Howe, you are our race winner. If there's anyone else you'd like to shout out after tonight's performance, make sure to let us know here as Miami comes to a close and we move on next to Sin City.
Yes, I want to give a big shout out to everybody behind the scenes at ABN. I put this on. Everyone who organizes this, all the fans for watching tonight. All the drivers are there. It was a nice, clean race. Gotta give a big shout out to all the Winsdale folks and everybody who makes this all happen.
Just like that, victory lane, Emily Howe getting it done here in the Miami 300. We thank you for your time. And with our podium, of course, talking to all three of the drivers that made it on, giving their perspectives. Tonight, it all came down to the long haul from beginning to end. Only one caution in between, and not at all an easy race for these drivers, but they gave it their all and then some. And I'd like to focus on that as we go through our final thoughts here. I think that was the big deal, the effort and the attrition. In some ways, they all come together at the end for the most successful drivers, and even those who we saw with troubles from start to finish. I think that was the biggest deal, pushing 100% until the checkered flag fell.
Yeah, I mean, this race felt a lot more like Chicagoland than it did the Texas race. Relatively low attrition. We had some drivers fall down in single car incidents, but still had, I believe, 15 cars on the lead lap by the time the checkered flag fell. It was those fine margins that really gave you success here. When you chose to pit, how clean your pit entry was, and of course how well you're able to manage your tires throughout the run with the tools that you have. And in the end, it was Emily Howe who was running up front really all day, just able to fend off those late charges from Santos and Alexander to bring it home.
Yeah, I got to say, it was really big of Edson Santos to talk to us tonight and talk about the incident he had at Texas with Hamilton Akabuzi and publicly apologise. It's very grown up to know when you're at fault, admit you're at fault, and then apologise for said incident. And so, again, I'd like to congratulate his not forwardness, but just being honest about that. But either way, tonight, I think we saw it all. We got big usage of lines, lots of rip in the top, which we know I love. Super clean racing all the way, and a little bit of strategy in the middle there to launch some folk way up the order. And of course, we very much watched Emily Howe master the dirty air, the tire management, and keeping that driver mentality in check. Super cool to see a first-time Champ Car winner tonight, and perhaps we're very much expecting the same when we go to Vegas, with lots of variable banking compared with turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And we already know that these cars race well there, and we already know that these drivers race well on ovals. So are we going to see a strategy run to the end of the race? Is it going to be a bit more similar to Texas? Who knows? You're going to have to wait and see. Only here on ABN.
You know, it's going to be a tough wait. Las Vegas with these high-speed, high-powered champ cars, it's going to be an exciting show. And I'll tell you this much, next Wednesday, same time, same place, right? Only on ABN, we'll be back. It's the Miami 300 tonight, though, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation. The Homestead-Miami Speedway, the virtual track of choice as we continue what's been a fantastic return to champ car racing here in 2024. As always, it's been David Kreutz alongside Olivia, Hayward, and Taylor Mills presenting tonight's coverage. And if you enjoy the action, make sure to leave a follow on the ABN Esports channel, and all uploads of race archives are on the ABN YouTube as well. Be sure to check them out at ABN Esports, no matter the social media platform you choose to look at. If you enjoyed, once more, we'd love to have you tune in once again for Las Vegas. A lot of excitement to go. The championship battle still in, of course, its infancy stage. Christina Ryan and Nicholas Pressey, they finished quite a few spots apart, and Ryan actually to gain a few back there as Pressey drops into 9th at the end of day. So the battles keep on going as we head to Las Vegas next time by. We'd love to have you watching once again. This has been exclusive coverage of the Miami 300, and we thank you for your support.
Thank you.